but I did see one video for changing out the starter in 2016. It wasn't great, so since it was the only one I saw, I figured since I needed to do mine, I would try to make one that was a little more in depth and probably would help a lot of people out there trying to change out their starter on their Hyundai Genesis or Genesis G80. Should all be the same from, I think it's 2015, 2018 or 19. I'll get the years right and put it in the title and the description. So starting off, I just got an array of tools set up. So mostly extensions, 12 millimeter, 14 millimeter, couple sockets, and you know, obviously I have other tools. We'll see what we need once we start tearing everything apart. Got everything, got my starter. It was easiest to get off of Rock Auto, and I got it in, I don't know, 2 days, so that was pretty quick. My starter hasn't gone off yet, but it's starting to kick over occasionally and it start revving, and I know at some point it's gonna give out on me, so I'm gonna go ahead and change it out before we have any issues. So I'm starting off, I'm gonna remove the tire, and then I've already placed the jack stand there. I like removing the tire because then you can place it under the vehicle in case there's any kind of issues, but at the same time giving me a little more room to kind of move around and slide underneath there. Removing the skid plate or dust cover, whatever you want to call it, the thing that goes along the whole bottom that I was just showing you that picture. There are, let me show you. There's a bracket that holds it in place. So don't get confused and try to remove these guys. It's not needed. Just unbolt that bracket. Everything under here was a 10 millimeter. All right, so moving on. All right, so I'm going to show you why I took off the tire and show you my access point from the way I'm doing it with basically minimal tools. For a person that's used to having a lot, moved a couple of times, so I don't have a lot of tools, so everything's just kind of scrounging everything. I actually had to buy new floor jacks at some point in time. I probably had like 5 pairs of floor jacks, so it's been a while since I've done some car stuff, but yeah, let's crawl into there and I'll show you why I took off the tire. For me, I felt like this was going to be better access for me sliding under. Again, I put my tire there, jack there, so let's go under. So the starter is right there, and I'm going to do this a couple of times. Maybe we'll be able to get a better picture of it. I know I can open up my screen so I can see it. Let's do this twice. But yeah, so I think the access is going to be maybe this way. Supposedly we have to remove this bracket, but we'll see. Alright, so I'm going to guess a couple 14s here, 14 there, and then that shield right there. We'll remove that, see if we can squeeze it out of there. Okay, so we're underneath the vehicle, and you can see that's the starter right there. So definitely needed to remove the shield. It's nice having the tire off because I'm sliding in right underneath it. It's basically, yeah, it's basically right behind the tire. So you'll find it right there. You'll see there's a shield on it that'll get removed. There's a couple pieces that look like they're going to be in the way, which I'll try to back out, which is this bracket. You'll see we'll have to remove that bolt just to get this arm out of the way, because it seems like this is going to be the direction the camera's in. It seems like it's going to be the way to get this thing out of here, but we'll see what happens. The bracket around the starter, it actually has 6 bolts. So I pulled up this picture so we can kind of see it. If you you know, there's two bolts that are further off to the right that you can't even see from underneath the vehicle or even from the top. So you kind of got to feel around for a little bit to locate them. It's good to have different length extensions or different length sockets to access them, and just kind of go by feel. You'll find them. And then also have a couple of joint sockets to help you kind of hit those tight spots. And that'll also work for the motor mount underneath it. Two of them you can access from the top of the engine bay, looking straight down. The third one you can't. You're just gonna have to make those like tight quarter turns. But again, if you don't have a long extension that can reach all the way down from the engine bay all the way down to that mount, you're just going to be stuck doing small quarter turns from underneath the car. Okay, so I saw a previous video and I was trying to avoid taking off the motor mount, but there is a casing that surrounds the starter, and that casing is mounted to the motor mount. So unfortunately, you do have to remove it. You do have to jack up the transmission and the motor from underneath, and I'll show you that right now. So yeah, it is quite a bit of work. Feels like something I've done on a BMW before a couple years ago. It's not an easy just unbolt and take out. So right where that bolt at right there that you can see, that's where the mount was. So when I do the reverse order, I'll show a better picture of it, of what had to be taken, because I was trying to avoid it happening, but nope, nonetheless. Once you unbolt it, then that's when you raise the transmission, and you'll see I slid the mount off to the right, so now it's out of the way, and I can remove this shield that's surrounding the starter. All right, so this is the mount right here. I'm not going to try to slide it back into place, but I just wanted to show you where it is, and I'm going to move it out of the way so you can see. You know, basically that's kind of where it was at. So you'll see. And now what you can see over here, see the starter's inside this casing right there. So now there's 4 bolts that have that casing around the starter. I'm going to remove those, and then we should be good. It should just fall out because it's already unbolted. There was a bolt there and a bolt. See if we focus it. Bolt right there. Focus. You can kind of see it. You get the gist. There you go. Those 2 bolts were for the starter right there. As soon as that happened, it fell out pretty quick. But again, it was in that casing, so continue on. Make sure you disconnect the battery. Make sure that's already been done. Just disconnect the negative back on the battery in the trunk. The shield that was going over the starter, it actually has 6 bolts. So reach farther back and you'll be able to gain access to that. There's a small shield that goes on the starter itself, and you just need an 8mm socket to get that removed. Okay, so going back in, I put it in backwards. That way I could connect the power plug, and then I'm going to insert the other clip that's right here. Super simple. Just push it in. Until I hear the sound of a click. Hopefully it'll go in soon. There we go. So what I'm going to try to do is now flip it over and put it back in place and put in the 2 bolts. Obviously I already put in the heat shield, so